Hello and welcome back to Conscious Coaches on a Mission. I am so glad that you are tuning in one more time and hopefully many more times. And today we have a special guest, Jill Lublin. She is an international speaker on the topics of publicity and networking and kindness. She helps people with visibility and referrals and profitability of their business by being out there in the public eye. She's a best-selling author 4 times, as I understand, and she helps you position your business for more profitability, more visibility, and more impact in the world. So welcome, Jill.
Thank you, Eugenia. I appreciate being here.
Oh, I'm so glad that we got to chat. So let's start by you telling people a little bit more about what does it mean to actually be in the public eye in a way that converts for their business? Because we know like there are a lot of famous people who just try to be famous for the sake of fame, right? But as coaches, a lot of times that's not the goal at all. But the goal is actually like, okay, if I'm going to be publicly out there, I want this to be somehow working for my business. So can you explain how being out there and speaking on stages or speaking in events or publicity, just as articles or whatever it is that you do, how that can impact one's business, especially coaching?
Absolutely. Thank you. So listen, I've been working with conscious coaches, just your people, for many years. And here's the reality. The more you are seen and heard, the more powerful your impact and contribution can be. And what I love about publicity is it's the kind of strategy that, number one, doesn't cost you a fortune. Number two, can be done and replicated with systems. And number three, directly gets you what I like to call a magnetization. You know, it's an attraction factor that really brings people toward you. And who doesn't need that, right? We all want more prospects and more clients. And I have seen publicity equals that. Plus, you're able to make frankly, an impact and contribution, which I'm sure you're all wanting to do based on, who you are out in the world. So that's really the big thing. And you've got to be bringing people to you. So I like the M&M strategy of publicity, which is to magnetize, to monetize, and to multiply. And publicity does all of that.
So when you speak of publicity, can you kind of open that up? As in, what is that? Is it speaking on the stage? Is it TED Talk? Is it videos on social media? Is it like YouTube channel? Is it writing content and getting it published in like Forbes or some, important sort of magazines? Or like, how do you see that?
Well, I'm going to, first of all, expand all of your minds today about publicity and say that publicity happens from the minute you open your mouth, from the minute you go into Zoom rooms, to all of who you serve and what you do. Yes, on all the above that you said, but particularly my expertise with helping coaches is really to get publicity that is, whether it be in blogs and podcasts, magazines, newspapers, radio, TV, that is publicity. Now, some of my people have spoken and gotten some of the other things happening. Beautiful. Then we're going to publicize that. Also, everything I teach, particularly around messaging, is replicatable on social media. But I think a mistake, I'm just going to say it right up front. Please do not think your social media is publicity. It is not. It is, if you're lucky, a one-hit wonder that maybe somebody sees it. Publicity is a gift that keeps on giving. In other words, it stays around, it's credible, it's braggable, and you can always say you've been featured on or in, and use all the podcasts or the small and big media that you get. It all matters and it all counts. So I would say let's look at publicity as real world media that you're getting, which includes all of the, kind of subsets of podcasts and blogs and everything else that's really key and relevant right now. And I'll tell you what I'm so excited about, besides everything in life, and that is the opportunity for all of you to have that kind of, trust, the trust that publicity engenders, because you get familiarity and you get belief in who you are. People see your energy and what you give, right? And they're attracted to that. And the reality, when you're seen and heard using publicity, that's powerful. And it, like I said about the gift that keeps on giving, it's something you can utilize every time you talk to a potential client. That's powerful.
So if we speak sort of from the standpoint of converting messaging, part of it, part of like what I do is messaging as well. So I do it through soul design and understanding oneself. So then from that place, sort of what you meant to speak about and your mission sort of in life. So from my understanding, the messaging is not just about selling what is it that you do, like the service, but speaking to the vision or to the aspirational identity or something higher. So in publicity, the way that you work with your clients, and you have some 25 years of experience or something crazy in doing that. So from your perspective, what would you say is more impactful when someone speaks about what they do, or when someone speaks more like how I'm talking about, like the vision or the something higher?
Well, I think it's both. I'm a big believer, like you, about speaking from resonance, authenticity. You have to be congruent, and I think that's really helpful. So I'm really big. I listen for what's underneath, because one of my strategies is, I like to call it, use everything you've got, right? We found out that you're from the Soviet Union. I might have you go after specific media. My, Hispanic clients would go to Hispanic media, and so on and so forth. I have a woman who, she's a communication coach, and when Black Lives Matter happened, I switched her to how to be a powerful Black woman in today's world and communicate powerfully. It's still incorporating all that she does, communication coaching, by the way, conscious communication coaching. And so we always want to look for distinctions. And for me, that's one of my God-given gifts, is the ability to translate people's messages and hear something that maybe you missed. So I think that's really a key and again, part of what I'm looking for is, let's fit into different categories at different times. So, what that could look like is using different parts of who you are. I like to call it, use everything you've got, different times. So I have a coach who has a son who's autistic. We use National Autism Month to talk about how to be a mom and how to, take care of your kids all simultaneously while you're running a career. We don't have to say she's a coach, right? And I want all you to hear that, to use all parts of who you are. It makes a really big difference, makes your publicity a lot easier, and then it helps you to actually get more publicity ongoingly.
Yeah, and as long as one stays connected to what's going on in the world, then there's probably ways to plug in whatever it is that you do in connection with pretty much anything.
Exactly. One of my coaches talks about enlightened leadership, right? And our whole thing right now is, it's really lacking in all of it. She's actually in the UK. She said, hey, guess what? Our side of the pond is just as bad as the United States, so we can talk about that. She can send in opinion pieces. She can, be a little bit, sometimes you might want to be a little confrontive, or, have a differing opinion. And the reality, and I want you all to feel safe in this, is that media is all about opinion. And as far as I know, you all probably have an opinion about, something. And if you just speak from that place in your interviews to the media, then realistically, your opportunities expand tremendously.
So how would you say somebody who never published articles in, let's say, important magazines, or never spoken on important stages, but has a great message, how would somebody like that start the process of actually making these steps towards the larger exposure?
So one of the things I always like is have a 500-word article ready to go, and somebody else can write it for you. Don't be concerned if you can't write. Listen, connect to me. I'll always have good writers for you, people who can do it very affordably. And then there's wonderful places to publish it, like medium.com. Immediately you become published. You don't, listen, my friends, you don't have to get onto Forbes first run out. I just want you to get in everywhere you can. And not only is it great to have an article that then can be published in multiple places, including places where you might be a member of something, for instance, in LinkedIn, great place. Depending on where you hang out, you can publish articles in different places, and it's free. I love that. You can also be, looking for other places where you can be like interviewed. So I love, podcasts. They're fairly easy to get on. There are podcast matching services that are free, including something like matchmaker.fm. And, there's really great podcasts that are always looking for guests. And one thing I want you to all hear, just even in the traditional world of publicity, here's a great statistic for you. There are 10,000 radio stations every single day looking for 4,000 guests, and that's radio. Then add on to that podcasts and blogs. Oh my gosh, the opportunities are endless. And what I've seen that I'm super excited about is the doubling of, maybe sometimes in some cases tripling, of the opportunities to get more PR. And all of these are free. Everything I just said, completely free. So I think that that's really important. The other thing I want you all to do immediately is go on Google Alerts. It's part of Google, and put in your name so that when the media, I notice I said when, not if, when the media starts featuring you, you will be notified. That's number one. And secondly, put in one word that frames what you coach on. For instance, when the Profit of Kindness came out, I put in the word kindness. Now, I have to tell you, I didn't know that November 13th is World Kindness Day, which it is. That alerted me to that. And now we do a publicity directed campaign for World Kindness Day. But I want you all to know, take baby steps, right? Baby steps to success. And in the very things I told you to do, let me promise you, these are baby steps to success. One of the things I want you to keep thinking about and presencing yourself is that we want to build your visibility, right? We want to build your visibility. That's how people see you, to book you on summits, to give you an article. I was just networking right before this in a women's group, and I got an invite to talk to somebody's mastermind group for 15 minutes. I got booked on a podcast. That happened because I showed up to a networking group for an hour. So again, remember this part about expand your mind, that it's all about visibility. And when you show up, right, wonderful things happen.
And how would you then balance out this visibility and the understanding that the more visible you are, the more possibilities there are for people to invite you, more opportunities, and hopefully more clients as well, if the message is correct and clear. But on top of that, what to do with the internal struggle? Because I know a lot of coaches worry about visibility as much as they desire it. So it's sort of like both ways.
Yeah, so here's the thing. What I've noticed is that when you get your message right, and I know your work is so important for this too, and my messaging orients toward media in particular, so that your confidence is accelerated. Because I notice when you have your message down and you know what to say and to zip it out fairly quickly, I don't mean speed talking, I mean with confidence and connectedness to your message, what's going to happen is that you're able to speak it simply, effectively, and frankly, really feel it. And what I've noticed is confidence does go way up. I mean, I have some very specific tactics and techniques that get a script written, so to speak, for a media message. I have practices, including, go to the mirror and smile and watch yourself, right? And watch your posture. A simple yet profound thing that actually really helps. And the reality is, listen, we're all afraid sometimes. And that includes me. I've been on Tony Robbins' stage, one of the most scary things that, I've ever done. And, I just walked out. I mean, the truth is, nobody knows all the things you're dealing with. And I'll tell you one thing, one of my secrets, and this is before I teach my publicity breakthrough boot camps. Whenever I'm speaking, I do prayer and meditation, and I ground myself, and I light a candle, and I get outside of myself and presence all that is, and they speak through me. And I think that that's really helpful, that each of you have your own moment to center, to breathe, and then go forth and to do whatever you need to do to help you. And we each have our own rituals, but definitely get that. That'll help a lot for the fear or anything else, because fear is really what? The unknown. And the reality that I've seen in all my clients is that as soon as you get that first podcast interview, which are pretty easy, and most people like you are wonderful, and they want to make you look good. Let me just say that. They want a great guest, and you're it, right? And so it is, if you notice, a conversation. That is what we are having today. A conversation. Neither she, Eugenia, or I have questions written out. We don't have script. We're just, cuffing it off the cuff, right? And I think you have to really keep thinking that these are conversations, and it's easy. So is written word easy. So is articles. You control it. These are all things, good places to start for most of you. Podcasts, articles, and where people are writing about you. We'll take you to TV after that, but let's start with the easier items first.
Yeah, and it's very important to be embodied with one's expertise and confidence, so that it's not just in your head, because let's say you have a script, because then, we can blank out, we can forget, like all this stuff that everybody's typically afraid of. But when you're doing the conversational style and you're just present within who you are, that comes from that embodied confidence. So like what you, Jill, were talking about with the lighting the candle, connecting to some higher guidance, feeling like they speak through you. Well, that's kind of what I'm talking about here, is that for all of you listening, is that you're not alone when you are doing this. It's you with your confidence, it's you with your mission, it's you with whatever your work in the world is. And then you're just having a conversation. It just happens to be recorded.
Yes, and with your experience. And I just really want to say, or maybe just starting, because I've worked with people from just starting to years of experience. But the reality is it always comes down to having a somewhat, and when I say script, please don't take that totally literally. I mean, at least a few phrases that that you can speak, that you can rinse and repeat, and that give you confidence to speak well.
Yeah. So from your perspective, understanding these key components, where to start, what to say, have some basic components, and what is the strategy, are the sort of three main pieces of beginning one's publicity?
So a couple things. One is you have to start with your message. And again, I look at it from a media perspective. So I like to ask you, what's the problem out there? I didn't even say, what do you do? I like you to get off the what you do and on to what's the problem out there. Like the coach I told you with the enlightened leadership, the problem is our lack of enlightened leadership and the problems that we're facing in the world right now. So that's what she's talking about, right? And that's interesting. Or the communication coach who's talking about Black Lives Matter, but from the perspective of being a powerful Black woman. And that's an interesting question to address. It's not like, here's how you communicate, right? And I think that that's really a great opportunity for all of you to look at, is what's the problem out there, and then identify 3 solutions. Like actually give people real things to do. Give them your golden nuggets, the things that you actually get paid for. Spill it, my friends. Just like I'm giving you lots of great PR tips and secrets, because we want to give value and benefit. And remember those 2 words, value and benefit, right? You want to always be doing that for people. And the reality is, then I would start and I'd look at some podcasts. You can go to iTunes and type in a keyword and let's see who's talking about what you want to talk about. That will be wonderful. And get on Google Alerts. And again, you will see what are people talking about related to what you are coaching on, because then it'll give you another wonderful way to do that. And the other piece I want to say is start locally. In your local market, people need you. Meaning it's a great way to get experience. There's ABC, NBC, CBS, CTV, BBC, depending on where you are in the world. They always need experts, and you're the expert that, putting yourself forth can solve. I have a woman in San Francisco, and she was on ABC radio. Why? Because they were talking about how do you build a coaching business and what do you do? And she was actually new to coaching. She was being coached by me, though, and she knew here's the key. You just say yes to the media. And it doesn't have to be perfect, but most importantly, you keep saying yes. Now, you got me in your front pocket now. We can figure out what's called the bridge from what you're coaching on to what they're talking about. Reality, though, please understand, the media is all, honestly, opinion, except for the hard news stuff. And you've got an opinion, as far as I know, right? Those listening here, that's what we're talking about.
Well, and that's very, very important message. And thank you for coming back to that, because I think having an opinion is something that often gets put down, like, oh, you shouldn't, but it's actually the very thing that's going to make you stand out.
Yes, exactly.
Exactly. So, Jill, how can they find you? And I know you have a free gift for us. So can you say a couple of words about that before we complete?
Yes, absolutely. So I want to invite you. I have a fabulous publicity challenge where we really go through some very specific strategies and do it in an interactive format. It's jilllublin.com/challenge. Please come and join me. I know you're going to love it. And that'll be great for you. And that's probably the best way. You can find me all over social media under Jill Lublin. And my website also is jilllublin.com.
Well, thank you very much, Jill. And all the information about Jill is in the show notes. Check it out. And she's got some really cool links there for you to look at her work, so you can maybe understand a little bit more as to what we're talking about and how that applies to you. Thank you so much, Jill, for being here.
Thank you.